Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online PTS Test video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I'm taking a look at the Werewolf transformation changes and testing that stuff. I've roughly been testing for about an hour and a half on it to get a general idea of how much of a loss Pack Leader has over the Berserking Werewolf, that kind of stuff. Berserking Werewolf definitely has its advantages with the bleeds and stuff over the Pack Leader, but the Pack Leader has a lot of things that the Berserker doesn't, and that's the fact that it applies minor maim, it does some other stuff. And between the two, they both have their playstyles, which is kind of unique and kind of nice, because there was nothing really offering any differences before. I know a lot of people are complaining because of the loss of the bleed on the Pack Leader versus the other one. The Pack Leader becomes more of a support role character, and I say that in the nicest way. It's a nice change for Pack Leader. I don't play Werewolf on live, so I don't play one all the time. All I know is from testing. So again, this is just my opinion on the changes that came with Werewolf. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Werewolf skills and how they change. So the Werewolf has changed quite a bit with the way things are. So I'm going to go ahead and put my skills on here so we can go through them. Alright, so the ones that I use personally for the Pack Leader is Brutal Pounce. This does a decent amount of damage up front to a single target and nearby enemies. It's a great AoE damage ability, especially when you're clearing trash in a dungeon. Here's Scene's Rage. I really like this. It does do a heal on you, and it gives you the Major Brutality, increasing weapon damage by 20%. That's a benefit when you're playing with this. And then also the Deafening Roar, because it applies that Major Fracture for you. And it also fears enemies for 4 seconds, which is nice. So you get that Major Fracture for 10 seconds, you get that fear on them for 4 of those 10. It's kind of a nice change, or a nice ability for that aspect. The other one I'm using is Howl of Agony. As you can see, this thing does about 11k damage, and it deals 33% more damage to enemies that are feared. So I like to use this in combination with Deafening Roar, so I can get that fracture applied, and then I can get that higher damage output from this. And then Claws of Life is the other one I use. I like this because I like the heal that it gives you during the disease damage aspect. So it heals you whenever you deal disease damage, and it deals X amount of disease damage over 10 seconds. That's, to me, is really nice. And Pack Leader, so talking about Pack Leader, you do get the 30% stamina increase, and you summon 2 Dire Wolves. The Dire Wolves' basic attacks apply minor maim for 4 seconds, reducing enemy damage done by 15%. Their special attacks reduce the enemy's movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. So it's, like I said, it's more of a support role setup than it is a damage dealer type thing. It really does offer some unique group support with that aspect, but that's about it. Okay, now the sets I'm using to give me a greater benefit with playing this are things that people are going to find quite unusual, because I'm not using the atypical meta setup. I don't use a lot of meta setups with my builds because I know that the casual role player doesn't have access, a lot of them, to the trial sets. A lot of them use overland sets, a lot of them use dungeon drops and monster sets from dungeons, mainly. Not even a lot of them use ability altering weapons, so that's why I don't use a lot of that stuff in my builds. This just gives you a basic idea, okay, of how the build would look if you were using this setup. That's it. So the monster set I'm running is Slime Crawl. Slime Crawl works really good with this because it gives you that extra weapon crit, but it also allows you to get minor berserk at all times, increasing your damage done by 8%. This really applies heavily when you're playing the werewolf, especially the Pack Leader. The next set I'm running is Hunting's Rage. As you can see, it has the 2 things, a weapon crit on the 2 and 4 piece. The 3 piece adds more stamina to your character, and then the 5 piece adds weapon damage. This allows you to bulk up on that weapon damage, so you get that greater damage potential when you're on the back bar. So, because that's where your werewolf form is, it's on the back bar. So when you swap bars, this is where you're getting that increased capability. And as you can see, you do lose some weapon damage back here because you're not using a Nernhoned weapon here. You're using an infused weapon with weapon damage enchant. And that's going to give you that greater capability. Now the other set we are using, and this is just for testing purposes, I wanted to see how it would affect the playstyle, is the Savage Werewolf. Now this set drops in one of the Wolf Hunter DLC dungeons. I don't remember exactly which one. We can look over here. Savage Werewolf drops in Moon Hunter Keep. So this one, the 2 piece adds stamina, 3 piece adds weapon damage, 4 piece adds stam recovery, and then the 5 piece. Your light and heavy attacks rend flesh, causing your enemies to bleed for X amount of damage every second for 4 seconds. Now this can be applied when you're in werewolf form or non-werewolf form. So it's kind of a nice damage boost when it comes to that. Now I am using 3 jewelry pieces with my standard DPS setup, 1 Bloodthirsty, 2 Tri-Rune, all weapon damage enchants, and then on the weapons themselves I'm using a sharpen poison damage enchant on the axe with a Nernhoned absorb stamina dagger, and that's just to add a little bit of extra bleed. And then on the back bar I'm using a sword with infused weapon damage. Now the reason I'm using a sword on the back bar, a lot of people are going to ask this, and that's because of the passive for this, which is Balanced Blade. No, not Balanced. Heavy Weapons. This makes your two-handed or your sword increase the damage done by 6%. Now remember, the damage done that increases by 6% is all damage done. It is not just your two-handed, it is not just physical, it is all damage you deal is increased by 6%. So including in werewolf form, you get a 6% increase in your damage. That's why I use it on the back bar. So, now that you guys know that stuff, the skills I use for it, because I am playing a Warden version of this, is very simple. Very simple setup. I use Barb Trap, Carve, Razor Caltrops. I use this mainly for the Major Fracture, because I can keep Major Fracture up 100% with this. And the Shulks. So that's really nice when it comes to group play, is this allows me to put Major Fracture on multiple targets. So I can keep it consistent on multiple targets. I'm not losing that benefit. So that's the reason why I use it. I do have Resolving Vigor here, just because I wanted to test the change of it, and it works out pretty well, not gonna lie. Bullnetch gives you that Major Brutality, Major Sorcery, increasing weapon and spell damage by 20%. We use this in our human form. In our werewolf form, we don't use this as much because we get massive stam recovery, we get a bunch of other stuff. It's crazy. Then we have our pack leader here, and then on the front bar, because of the way I play this character, I have Dawnbreaker here. Now this isn't for when you activate, you get 300 weapon damage for 20 seconds. That's nice, and we don't use it for the damage over time. We use it because it gives us 3% more weapon damage while slotted, which improves our DPS with Rending Slashes, Subterranean Assault, the Bloodthirsty, and I do use Bloodthirsty instead of the Rapid Strikes, or whatever it is. You can use the other morph, it's really good, but if you do that, I would switch this out to the one that has the heal applied to it, kind of thing. Then we have Cutting Dive, Quick Cloak, and then of course, like I said, Dawnbreaker. Now that's when I'm in human form. So when I transform into werewolf, I'm going to show you guys a couple parses I did. So this is a parse I did in human form. As you can see, I do about 25k DPS with this setup, and this is on this tester skeleton here, which I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the human form parse so you guys can see it. And this is with every ability being used, so... And as you can see, I pulled about 25k DPS there. Not a whole lot. A lot of people will say, well, that's really low. They are correct, it is low, because I'm not using master weapons, I'm not using Maelstrom stuff, I'm not using all those different things that give me that greater ability to enhance my character's damage capabilities. Things like, if I was using Reliquin, my DPS would actually be better. But I'm not using that. I'm not using a master's two-handed sword, which increases the damage of my carve ability on the initial hit. I'm not using those things. I'm using this setup. So, 25k DPS isn't bad for people that are transitioning between dungeons and trials, or just playing dungeons primarily. It's a decent amount of DPS. So now I'm going to show you a few parses that I did with the werewolf form. So here's the second parse I did with the werewolf form. As you can see, we had about 4,013 weapon damage, 57% weapon critical, 70% critical damage with a 52.8 physical pin. That's because we had the roar on them, the one that gives them the major fracture. And as you can see, most of our stuff was up 91% of the time that we were in werewolf form. So, and that was my second parse. My first parse with it was right here, and it was 21,000. But I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't, and you can see I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't have my potions working right out the door. I screwed up on that. I screwed up on a few other things. And like I said, I don't play werewolf on live, so it's really hard for me to get that same playstyle in this as well. So if I played a werewolf more often, I would be able to get a better rotation down, that kind of thing. And I have been practicing with the werewolf a lot on PTS, just not this update because of the changes that came to everything. I really wanted to get in and test the werewolf changes. So Pack Leader definitely took a hit with its changes, but it became more of, like I said, again, a support type character. So you have the Pack Leader, which is your support werewolf form, and then you have your berserking one, which is your damage dealer. And I still think that the berserking one is better if you're going to play more, if you want to be more aggressive and more damage dealing. That is definitely the way to go. I think if you want to offer some group support, some things to help aid the group to some degree, Pack Leader is definitely the route to go. And you can actually take advantage of other sets besides the ones I'm using, and other monster sets and things like that if you wanted to help amplify your ability to play the character. It's just that I found this to work best for me. So, but yeah, so Werewolf definitely had a lot of changes. I don't know the DPS loss because I'm seeing like between the testing that I did with the Savage Werewolf or the Berserking Werewolf and the Pack Leader, the difference was about 5k DPS in my rotation. So Berserking Were definitely did do better DPS than the Pack Leader, and I was using the same setup. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and swap that real quick so you guys can see the difference. Again, I don't have all my parses for that test that I did on the Savage Werewolf because I did log off to eat lunch and came back and did some other stuff. I didn't save my parses, is what I should say. So here's what the Berserking Werewolf looks like. As you can see, my light attacks deal X amount of bleed damage over 4 seconds, which is really high when you add it to the other bleed damage I get, which is kind of nice. Let me go ahead and accept this change. I'm going to get some ultimate real quick and see real quick where I'm at. I'm at 128 out of 300. We're going to go ahead and just parse on this guy until we get enough ultimate. I hate making mistakes, guys. Trust me. Alright, so we have enough ultimate, I believe, now. Yes, we do, to turn into the Berserking Werewolf. We gotta wait to come out of combat, and what I'll do is I'll go down and I'll parse on the other one, so you guys can see what that looks like. So let me come out of combat with that one. Right. And just so you guys can see, because people will bring this up, that the DPS loss that I was getting, I was doing about 19,000 DPS, but remember this thing is a trial robust centurion. This is the equivalent to a trial boss. So a lot of things are different with it compared to this. So here we go. We are going to transform and then go into our rotation. So potion, transformation, leap. And there you go. We did about 26k DPS there. So staying within range of the other one, which we did I did 24k with, and like I said, I don't know the rotations of this very well, but you can see this thing does an immense amount of damage with its bleeds, and then with the Claws of Life and even the Savage Werewolf set, we were doing a decent amount of damage itself, but our Claws of Life, our Brutal Pounds, didn't do as much as they did when we were a pack leader. So but that's what I notice in the changes between the two, is that aspect. So it's really up to the players, player preference on how they choose to play the build, or how they choose to play their werewolf. Some people will still stick with pack leader because they like the idea of having pets and stuff. The other ones will use the berserking werewolf because it's actually a damage dealer. So. But that's pretty much what I'm seeing with the werewolf changes. I know some people are unhappy with them. I get it. I understand. It's just, I see things, again, from a different perspective, and I do kind of like the changes. This actually encouraged me to want to make a werewolf on the live server, so I have one that I can play with, and I would probably use pack leader myself because I like playing more of the support character than just a damage dealer. So. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.